everybody. So welcome to Rachel's Reviews. This is so exciting. So I had this little idea a couple of weeks ago that I would do a top movies of the decade video. And I thought, hey, maybe I'll invite some of my friends, YouTube friends, to join in and give their favorite movie of the decade. And I thought I'd get like 1-2 responses, maybe just a few people that I collaborate with a lot, that they would be interested, but I wasn't expecting a big response. And I was shocked to get, over a dozen different YouTubers and people that I follow on Twitter and all this different stuff that wanted to participate. And it was really cool too, because there were a lot of people that I've never worked with before, and I've gotten to get to know a little bit. And it's really neat because we haven't had a single repeat. So it's a really fun, different group of nominees. And so let us know when you're watching which one is your favorite and what you think is the best film of the decade, and put in the comment section. So enjoy this. This was really fun to do. I'm really happy about it. Thanks so much, and let's get started. First up, we had a lot of selections that had to do with comic book movies, of course. And yeah, so there's quite a variety here of different films based on comic books from DC and Marvel. So let's get started and see what people pick.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Dan Jensen from Movie Talk, and a huge thank you to Rachel for letting me be part of this little segment. So yeah, look, as far as movies of the last decade, there have been so many really good ones. I mean, oh God, there have been movies that have made us laugh and cry and think about our lives. But my most favorite movie is a big, gigantic popcorn film, and that one is...
Hey, Jenkins!
What do you want?
You're going to talk about 50 Shades, right?
No, I'm not talking about 50 Shades of Grey. That is not my favorite film.
Do you want to know what my favorite movie of the last decade was?
I surprise me.
It was the 50 Shades!
Anyway, as I was saying, look, my most favorite film from this last decade is Avengers Infinity War, and it surprises me to say that because when you think about a movie like that, you don't really think about it as, that it could be one of the greatest movies of all time. But in all honesty, when I walked out of the theater after seeing that film, I really contemplated putting it into my top 10 most favorite movies of all time, which I'm still considering it. It's something that I'm wrestling with because it just sort of baffles me that a movie from last year could be one of my favorite films of all time. But I mean, this movie, it just ticked every box for me. It had characters that I loved and really got behind and felt sympathy for. A villain that I felt sympathy for and who was just out of this world amazing. Like, just one tier below Darth Vader as far as greatest villains of all time. And that ending, I mean, I love a downer ending, and it doesn't get much more downer than that movie. While Endgame was almost as good for me, I just thought Infinity War was such a remarkable film on every level. And that one, I would have to say, is my favorite film from the last decade. So thanks again, Rachel, and back to all of you other guys.
Hello everyone, I'm Rachel from Rachel Reviews Everything. I think my favorite movie of the decade would most definitely have to be Wonder Woman. It was so incredible to see such a strong female character like Diana be brought to life in such a big way. I remember when the movie first came out, I was actually afraid to go see it because it hasn't always been easy for me to put my faith in the DCEU, and it kind of worried me to have one of my absolute favorite superheroes in their hands. But I was so pleasantly surprised by how well the movie did turn out. Diana is such a strong, determined, and compassionate character that really inspires you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and this movie really did a great job of showcasing those qualities in her. I also love a movie that has a little bit of everything, and Wonder Woman certainly has everything. It has action, drama, romance, a touch of comedy. You experience so many different emotions as you watch it, and the cast is just phenomenal. Gal Gadot was born to play the role of Wonder Woman. And of course, Chris Pine makes a great Steve Trevor. It's hard for me to even put into words how much this movie means to me, but it's absolutely my favorite movie of the decade.
Hello everyone, firstly I just want to quickly say thank you to Rachel for inviting me to be part of this. I'm here to talk about my favourite film of the decade. Also going to put down below here some of my honourable mentions because there's so many good films that it was a struggle to choose, but in the end it came down to this one and Searching. But my film is Avengers. Yes, the Avengers, the first one, the original one, even though Endgame came close to topping this. But still, this is my favourite film of the decade. When this came out, there was no other film where we saw these, characters that were in their own standalone movies joined up for one big team up. I know it's been done 4 different times lately after that, but that was the first time, and it was such a good film as well. It had humour, it had excitement, it had lots of action set pieces. Let's not forget that epic scene in New York when the camera pans around behind him, and the Hulk when he says, "I'm always angry." Yes, this was a fantastic movie and I really enjoyed it, and it was such an experience. Now they have, as I said, since that there's been other great films that have given us lots of different experiences, especially Endgame, which was another one that gives me goosebumps. But still, this is something that this was the original one. It was so great, and yeah, it was between this and Searching, and I do think that this is my favourite film of the decade. So, yeah, go Avengers! Avengers, assemble! I mean, that was in the Endgame. But anyway, you know what I mean. Yay!
Hey everyone at Rachel's channel, I'm Joe. Thank you, Rachel, for having me on your channel. Always a pleasure to collaborate with you. My favorite movie of this decade. That was pretty daunting. I have a hard enough time figuring out my favorite movie of each year, but there's so many that I could have gone with. From the big blockbusters like Avengers Endgame, the first Avengers, The Force Awakens, to some of the smaller films like Silver Linings Playbook, maybe even an epic biopic like Bohemian Rhapsody. But as my thoughts settled, I came to my senses and decided that no, this is the one for me for this past decade, and that is The Dark Knight Rises. I know that this movie doesn't have a really good reputation in comparison to its predecessors. Whether or not it's better than The Dark Knight, I think, is entirely up to personal opinion, but I think that this movie wraps up everything so neatly that it makes it one of the best film trilogies of all time, next to the original Star Wars or Back to the Future or Indiana Jones and many others. This movie does a great job of respecting the character of Bruce Wayne, giving us a quiet, dramatic look at this iconic character. Probably the first Batman movie that we've ever really seen a true, deep, in-depth look at Bruce Wayne and the psychology of his character. He finally learns to embrace the fear inside of him by admitting his fear of death, dying inside that pit while his city burns and he's not able to save it. And he's finally able to climb out of the pit without the use of the safety net, which leads to the best scene in the movie when he makes it to the ledge. And Hans Zimmer's score. Just amazing. There's so many other things that I could talk about, but at the end of the day, The Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a great conclusion to this trilogy, and I don't think it gets the credit that it deserves. I think people need to give it another watch, not comparing it to its predecessor, and just look at it as a movie, and you might be able to appreciate what it has to offer. It doesn't even try to top The Dark Knight. Like I said, it just focuses on wrapping up the character's storyline of Bruce Wayne, where he's finally able to move on from being Batman and living a normal life as Bruce Wayne. And I'm just gonna say it, Christian Bale, the best Bruce Wayne / Batman in live action, period. That's my favorite movie of this decade. Thank you, Rachel, for having me on. And for those of you at Rachel's Reviews who are watching this, thank you for listening in.
Next, we had some people who picked some Oscar favorites. These are really well critically praised, well-received films. And yeah, they were very natural picks for your favorite of the decade.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Kem, and in conjunction with Rachel's Reviews, in my opinion, the greatest movie of the 2010s is Whiplash, written and directed by Damien Chazelle and starring Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons. From a filmmaking standpoint, Whiplash is, to quote Brian Tellerico from his review on RogerEbert.com, cinematic adrenaline. This movie has a flowing, kinetic editing style that I've only seen in a couple of other movies, Mad Max Fury Road and Blade Runner 2049. From an acting standpoint, Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons give the performances of their career. Simmons won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for that year, and that was the smartest decision that the Academy has made for some time. And Teller's scenes with his family at the dinner table and driving to a competition which he's late for were both riveting and terrifying respectively. And on a deeper level, the movie pushes the question of what does it mean to succeed more than any other movie that I've seen, at least in the 2010s. Simmons's quote about there being no more harmful words than good job, including the ensuing scene where he tells a story of Charlie Parker getting a cymbal thrown at his head, wrap up his entire personality into a nutshell. Even though Simmons in this movie has the demeanor of a rattlesnake, he comes from a place of pure passion. And it turns out that passion comes in the form of a sledgehammer that grew into a man. And Teller's entire story arc could be wrapped up with this one quote. I'd rather die drunk, broke at 34, and have people at a dinner table talk about me than live to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remembered who I was. In that one sentence, it shows that Teller's character would rather die young and be considered a success than grow old and be considered a failure. In the end, I believe that Whiplash across the board is the best movie of the 2010s.
One of my favorite movies of the decade certainly was The Shape of Water. That movie really touched my heart like no other movie had. The whole idea of a human and a creature falling in love is such a unique idea. And the whole, people think, oh, it's such a creepy idea, but really the way that the director Guillermo del Toro executes it is just so brilliant. And not only do we have this unique story about love between, a human and this kind of creature from the Black Lagoon, anthropomorphic fish thing, we also have a story that tackles racism, gay rights. The cinematography is some of the best I've seen. The acting, Sally Hawkins to play someone who is mute. Brilliant performance. So I truly think The Shape of Water is a masterpiece. It's a movie that I could watch over and over again and still love every single time. I mean, I certainly cried the first time I saw it. Totally recommend everyone see The Shape of Water. Fantastic movie.
Hello everyone, my name is Larry from LC Screen Talk, and my favorite movie of the decade is Call Me By Your Name. I loved it so much. I got the book, I got the soundtrack, of course, the Blu-ray, got shirts, stickers. I was obsessed, y'all. The reason I chose Call Me By Your Name over so many amazing films that have come out this decade is because not only did it resonate with me personally and really affect me emotionally on a level that no other film has done in a very long time. Technically speaking, I think it's dang near a perfect film. I struggle to even pick out specific flaws here because it's that well crafted. Timothée Chalamet delivered a career-defining performance in this film. He was stellar as Elio. Armie Hammer delivers his best performance of his career to this point as Oliver. Michael Stuhlbarg is amazing. The cinematography takes on a life of its own, presenting this amazing, beautiful, lush Italian countryside. The shots are beautiful. The music, it is haunting yet beautiful, completely effective for everything they need it to be. It's a truly effervescent, all-encapsulating love story that entirely swept me into the setting, into the feels. And then that ending, what an amazing, perfect end shot for a movie. Again, I think it is pretty much a perfectly crafted film. And you add on how much it affected me personally, it had to be my pick for the best movie of the decade. So thank you, Rachel, for inviting me to be a part of this video and allowing me to talk yet again about Call Me By Your Name.
Naturally, because I am so into animation, we're going to have a lot of respondents that picked animated films that are as into animation as I am. So enjoy this set.
Hello, my name is Ron Smith, and here's the thing. Miss Rachel, you asked us this one question. What is, in our opinion, the best film to come out this past decade? And there ain't no film I never get tired yapping my gums about. And that film is Hamaru Hosoda's own Wolf's Children. Because y'all don't even understand. On the outside, you think about it and you look at it, you think, oh, it's a Twilight-esque film. Slow your roll. Seeing this film is truly about a mother's love and how important and amazing it is. Seeing Hana raise her two kids, Ame and Yuki, have kids, have wolves, and dealing with everything about them, from their kid human hormones to the wolf instincts. This film hit a place in my heart and it never left, man. I cried, I wept, I laughed, and I was just amazed by everything. From the voice acting, from the animation, everything in between. This film deserves more praise than I think has ever been given. Now here's the thing, and you're never gonna forget it. Wolf's Children, it's my favorite, no doubt about it. And if you deny it or you just don't believe me, all I gotta say is, look, came out in 2012. Go out and check it for yourself. Because I promise, you will not deny it, and you're gonna appreciate what you see. Because more importantly, a mother's love is a beautiful thing.
Okay, so in trying to pick out the best movie of the past decade, I had like 5 I kept coming back to, all for completely different reasons. I know a lot of Twitter hated Last Jedi, but it might be my favorite Star Wars film. And then last year was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which hopefully has changed the animation field forever. Jury's still out on that. We'll see, but I thought it was amazing. Then there was Your Name, which is one of the most amazing non-Studio Ghibli animated films I've ever seen. And then I also thought about Mary Poppins Returns, which, while it was a sequel, it was everything I've ever wanted from any of these live-action Disney remakes, but they've never been able to capture. Mary Poppins Returns did. However, even though all these movies, and probably even my choice for this video, are sort of tied, each one is amazing in its own way. In the end, I decided to go with a movie that I felt was not just amazing to me, but also culturally important. To that end, I decided to go with Pixar's Coco. Not only was Coco just a funny, touching, emotional, and just plain beautiful film, it was also a movie that taught me, and hopefully many other people, something more about another culture and another culture's holiday beyond just, like, oh, Day of the Dead is like Mexican Halloween or whatever. There's been so much misinformation surrounding not just the Day of the Dead, but also just Mexican culture in general, that I think to have a movie use it in such a way that it's not only entertaining and beautiful, but also educational, that elevates the film to a whole other level. And it's so hard to use movies to educate anyone in any way that doesn't just feel like edutainment, where the story takes a backseat to the lesson. So I feel like anyone who is able to do it well enough that you almost don't even recognize that you're learning something, that kind of writing deserves to be recognized. So as much as I loved all the films I mentioned, and I think they're all brilliant and amazing in their own ways, if I have to pick out one to be the best of the decade, I think I'm going to have to go with Coco.
My favourite film of the decade has to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, closely followed by Love, Simon. That was another film from this decade that really resonated with me and that I really loved. But with this film, I went to see it pretty early. It was like an early preview thing that Odeon was doing, and it was before reviews came out or anything like that, or at least before I'd seen any reviews anyway. And yeah, I went into it after having seen like some of the aesthetics in trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, it still just blew me away. Seeing like the comic book look in animation for the entire film was just amazing. Also, the leap of faith scene is literally one of my favorite scenes ever. It gives me goosebumps every time I see it. And was actually the scene that I wanted to do as part of my uni work, but it didn't end up happening because it was a bit too short, but hey ho. I still did a scene from that film though. Yeah, everything was great about it. It was just a really, really, really solid origin story of Miles Morales, just encompassed in this beautiful animation that kind of looked like it was 2D, but it was actually 3D. Everything about it was just so good. I mean, the music was also great. I still listen to the music up until now, really. The characters were great. I am looking forward to seeing more Into the Spider-Verse sequels in the future. As I said, the visuals are great, and yeah, just all of that comes together to just make a really, really great film that I've seen quite a few times in cinemas. I was lucky enough to see it in the IMAX when they re-released it. And it's also a film that just caused like this massive discussion within the animation community for weeks on end. I mean, I'm kind of a bit guilty of that. I didn't stop going on about this film either. But yeah, it just nobody could have enough of it, and everyone was just talking about it all the time. And yeah, it's just great. It's just a really, really great film, a really solid animation film, and it's really surprising that this is the same studio that was okay with doing the Emoji Movie the year before, and are okay with doing, the Angry Birds movie too now. This studio is really weird, but yeah, I'm happy they made this film anyway, and I'm looking forward to the sequels. And yeah, I guess if you haven't seen this movie, go out and watch it. It's really good. It's like the Spider-Man movie that did the worst out of all of them I just saw this morning, or at least out of a lot of them. And it should have done a lot better. It's a really, really good Spider-Man film, and it's like one of the films that people say is the best Spider-Man film. Like maybe behind Spider-Man 2. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble on for too long. Thanks, Rachel, for having me on, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Bye.
There are so many reasons why Your Name is my favorite movie of the decade. It's the movie that I most wanted to tell people about as soon as I'd seen it. I was so excited about it. And it's a movie, every time I watch it, I find something new and interesting and beautiful about it. It's a movie with lots of layers, and you can enjoy it on just a kind of a lighthearted, fun movie, especially at the beginning. But then you can read a lot more spiritual insight into it. Beautiful movie. It can be quite funny. It can be quite romantic. It can be quite tense when it wants to be. It has, I feel like, something for everyone. It's so beautiful. I love the music. I think the music is stunning. The spiritual connection that Mitsuha and Taki have from literally being in each other's bodies, thing that speaks to our connection with others, with humanity, that we meet someone, and if we can recognize their humanity and their value to God, their value to their family, their value, and we can sense that, and then we will want to do whatever we can to help them. And that's the connection that Mitsuha and Taki have. I love it. I think it is just moving and beautiful, and got something for everybody. So yeah, definitely check out Your Name. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Hello there, this is the Arabian Eagle. In my opinion, the best animated movie of the 2010s has to be Inside Out. I really love the characters of anger, fear, anxiety, joy, and sadness. I especially love the voice actors who portrayed them. They did a fantastic job. Honestly, I would have chosen either Toy Story 4 or Spider-Verse. But since Inside Out is a complete original story, that's why I chose it for the best movie of the 2010s. Honestly, Inside Out, in my opinion, is in my list for best animated movies of all time and best films of all time. This is my reason why I think that Inside Out is the best movie of the 2010s. This is the Arabian Eagle, signing off.
And finally, we have some fan favorites that covered quite a degree of variety and spectrum. So definitely have fun with this group.
Hello everybody at Rachel Reviews. This is Benny the Bull from Subjective Cinema. I'm glad to be here collaborating with my friend Rachel. It's really an honor. I enjoy her content a lot, and I really appreciate her allowing me to do this with y'all. And the subject she told me about was my personal favorite movie between 2010 and now. I thought long and hard about this. I did a little bit of research. My choice might change later on, but for right now, I'm gonna have to say it is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This movie seemed very different to me in a lot of aspects. A lot of people said that it was like a video game, which I could see. There's a lot of video game references and stuff. To me, it seemed more like a live-action cartoon, almost like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. One of the personal things I really like about this movie is just Edgar Wright, the director. Everything he's ever done that I've seen, I have enjoyed quite immensely. He does great action scenes, he can do great fight scenes, and he can make anybody a heroic character. He's known for making anybody, elderly people, nerdy people, just any kind of non-heroic person you can think of. He can make heroic and believable, and it turns out real well. It's really well written. It follows the source material from what I've heard very well, and I just enjoyed it quite a bit. So yep, that's what I'm thinking my choice for past decade is gonna be. Check out my channel, I may change my mind. Thank you, Rachel, thank you all, and this is Benny the Bull saying fare thee well.
Hello, I'm Alexander Robinson from the YouTube channel The Real Mr. Robinson, and a movie that I think is one of the best of the decade is 2016's Shin Godzilla. This was the first Japanese Godzilla movie since 2004, and on the outside you'd think it's just another Godzilla movie, but when you get right down to it, it's a political satire on the Japanese government and how they responded to the earthquakes, tsunamis, and the 2011 Fukushima meltdown that all occurred during the 12 years Toho was not making Godzilla movies. And in a way, this might alienate viewers who aren't from Japan or those who don't understand Japanese politics, but all the stuff that involves Godzilla himself is just perfect. Godzilla is the scariest he's ever been in a long time. He's indestructible, his design is just downright creepy, and what makes this Godzilla particularly interesting is that he doesn't start off the way you would think. He first appears in this movie as this weird, disgusting eel creature that you wouldn't even think was Godzilla until he evolves and turns into this monster. And since this movie is a reboot, this is a very clever way to retweak the origin of Godzilla to deliver some surprises, but never straying away from what made the character so popular in the first place. On top of that, it's just so well made in terms of the cinematography, the framing of shots. My favorite scene in the entire movie is when we first see Godzilla unleash his atomic breath. It's beautiful, it's cool, it's scary, and it has some of my favorite shots throughout the entire Godzilla franchise. It is really one of my favorite Godzilla movies. It's the best Godzilla movie since 1964, and it's one of my favorite movies of the decade, period.
Now, there were a lot of films that honestly I could have picked for my favorite decade. Like, there have been a lot of amazing films released throughout 2010s, but if I had to pick what would be my number one favorite, I mean, for a while it was Whiplash, but I'm not thinking about it, it would go, for me, Baby Driver. Baby Driver is honestly the film this decade that honestly has the most impact on me, and that's, in terms of best of the year in the decade, it's more important the films that have impacted me the most, and Baby Driver is that movie. This is also a film I have rewatched the most throughout the decade, but it's not just watchability, you know why? It's pretty much everything from its amazing, interesting characters to the incredible and outstanding filmmaking from Edgar Wright, right to the incredible and amazing soundtrack, the outstanding action sequences, the top-notch ending, which I still think should have won that Oscar, honestly. Like, I remember when I saw this movie in theaters, like, it's after when I saw Spirit Me 3 and my brother went to see Guardians of the Galaxy, but then I saw this movie playing, and this film pretty much changed my life. Like, this movie is just so amazing on every level. I still feel the same amount of emotion, fun, entertainment, and impact I did when I first to watch it. I don't know whether it's because of the soundtrack or the character, especially Baby as a character played excellently by Ansel Elgort. Baby Driver to me is my favorite film of the 2010s. I loved every single minute in this movie and this film. I have constantly rewatched since I saw it that day. Like, Edgar Wright, you are the man.
So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun with this collaboration. It was so great to work with so many different YouTubers and get to hear their perspective, their picks. I just really, really loved it. So let us know in the comments section what your pick would be for the best film of this last decade. And we'd love to hear that. So make sure that I'll have links down to all of the content creators that participated, and make sure you're following them. Make sure you subscribe to their channels. They're really great. And so thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.